Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 18th meeting of the trustees of trust funds. I will note that we have a quorum. We got two of the trustees present and the third is on the Zoom call. We'll begin with a hopefully approval of the minutes of the November 19th meeting.
So move.
Okay, we'll hear a second.
Second.
Any corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, we'll call the question, and because we have one of us on Zoom, we have to do it via roll call. We'll start with you, Peter.
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Okay, now we'll turn the floor over to our esteemed colleague from the legal department.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I actually don't have the agenda in front of me, so what is my thank you. Great, okay, excellent. So Haven Metals, there is no update, although I do have a call in to the Attorney General's office because I think I told you, Tom, but maybe not all of the trustees that when Susan and I went to that CLE when I was on the phone, the CLE that we were heading to, I actually went to a talk given by the woman at the U.S. Attorney's Office she actually talked about this case. She didn't know that Portsmouth was gonna be in the audience. She knew Susan, but not me. So anyway, I talked to her after, and so no updates other than that. But for other things, I want to talk to her about, which is a good segue into the next item on the agenda.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you mean to say U.S. Attorney? Is the U.S. Attorney looking at this case? Or the Charitable Trust Division?
The Charitable Trust Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office,
The Attorney General's office.
the Attorney General's
Okay,
Office.
all
Sorry,
right.
in New York they call them U.S. Attorneys. The Attorney General of New Hampshire. Yes, not Pam Bondi.
Well, no, I was worried that the
Yeah.
U.S. Attorney was looking
Sorry.
into our files.
No, that is
Okay, so that's
a Federalist problem. I practiced a long time where the federal courts in New York they call them U.S. attorneys, but no, the New Hampshire Attorney General's office, the trust division. So, thank you for that question.
Well, I was really starting to worry.
Yeah, no, that would be really troubling.
I'm going to arrest the trustees.
Yep. No. So since the last time we met, I have spoken with Mary, with the Keenan family and also the Kohlhaas family. We are in process of getting those scholarships drafted and done, although Cynthia Keenan has a lot of family in and she's been a little bit hard to reach. So, just checking in with her, and I'm not sure exactly when we'll get something off the ground with her, but I anticipate in the new year, kind of letting her lead. The Kohlhaas scholarship, we have a draft in play. Nothing to share quite yet. Tom and I are going back and forth with the draft, so that will be in probably the next meeting. You'll have something for that.
Is that going to be under the policy we have? Is that going to be a $25,000 scholarship?
So that's a good question, and incident to that process of trying to figure out how much the Kohlhaas family wants to put in, Judy and I had a conversation about how that number gets decided, the 25, whether that's enough to fund 500, and historically it is. So that is, you're very good at giving me segues. That is one of the proposed revisions to the policy, that where we say 25,000, we say or number deemed enough to get 500. So that is how much they are going to put. The family is going to start. Okay. They might have a little bit more later, and as of today, historically, that is enough to distribute $500. Did that answer your question? Yeah, okay. So that's all on that one. Any other questions? Dana?
Well, just curious, why the added verbiage of deemed enough?
So, I'm sorry that I didn't have this in advance, but I do have some copies for the folks in the room.
I can scan it to you after, Dana.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason is that the number 25,000 came from, I guess, Judy, looking historically at that number has been enough as the performance over time.
Correct, and that was the amount
About
when
500,
they did when the trustees designed their policy, that was historically had been enough to generate the type of interest earned in order to pay out at least $500.
Right. So if we have a bad year or, a couple of bad years, the next time this comes around, we just wanted to have a little bit of language that it may need to be more, could be a little bit less. So it's
Well-
very small revisions. Tom pointed out that the website still said .com, the website address on the policy. Although, when you type in .com, it still takes you there, so it's not.
But that's a temporary thing. It's a transitional thing.
Is it?
Yeah, it is gonna go away eventually.
Okay,
so,
well, anyway, it's good to change.
You
And.
Just my 2 cents on that, on the qualifications, what's enough. I don't know what others think, but I'm a little uncomfortable leaving it open to discussion and discretion. I'm just afraid that could get complicated in certain circumstances. Just my point of view.
How do you mean, Dana?
Well, I think it could be arbitrary at decision-making on the part of the trustees or the administrator as to what's enough. And I think it should be more consistent with taking into account the ups and downs of the market. Conditions change, and I just think having a consistent rule is long-term more appropriate.
Well, how about this? So the language used to read at least 25,000, sufficient to generate enough income. So you'll have time to sit with this when it's sent to you. Now it'll say, or the proposal is, must be at least 25,000 or amount deemed sufficient. So if you want to propose different language, it's still that floor of 25. So I hear what you're saying. What?
It doesn't say the floor at 25.
It says at least 25,
at least 25 or an amount sufficient.
yeah,
Well,
That's the revised language, right?
Right.
right. So,
And whose determination that it's enough?
we would have to.
yeah, it's up to us. I mean, we could
So
put,
if we leave it at least 25, then is that what you're more comfortable with? Because it's at least 25?
Well,
which leaves open more.
I think you have to change the language if that's what you're recommending. So it should say the greater of $25,000 or an amount sufficient. Because I think the at least applies to both 25 or an amount sufficient. And I think Dana makes a valid point.
Yeah, I almost think that we need to take a look at, maybe 25 is not enough, and we say $30,000. Or, because if we have a couple of years in a row that the market doesn't perform and we don't generate enough, that means nothing goes out.
That's correct.
And basically until you know, if there's a dip,
yeah,
you know, we could be below the corpus level.
yeah.
And we'd have to sit on it until it reached that corpus and generated more income again.
And that's happened when we had the smaller ones. We had multiple times where we weren't able to give out because it didn't generate enough. Before we did the combined, we had a lot that we had to hold for a year or two until it generated enough interest to be able to award the scholarship.
And haven't we give them, now the way it is now, up to 3 years or 5 years?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, if what I'm hearing is the 25 is intended to be an absolute minimum, then I think it should say the greater of 25 or an amount sufficient. But my concern, I think, is similar to Dana. Now, we're gonna post this on the website, so someone who's thinking about doing it will download this. And if they call you and say, we wanna do this, how much is that minimum? You're gonna have to come to us, right?
Well, I don't think there would be any decisions in the first phone call anyway. So if it says the greater must be the greater of 25,000 or an amount deemed sufficient, you know, we could add some language like based on a look back at the markets, or, you know, add some language. But then why complicate it? Just say, I mean, we could also just look at it, and if it is 25, keep it 25. You know, if it's never dipped below and it's been consistent, or
Could you add like an additional sentence that says, you know, something to the effect of, you know, please note that if you know, it does not generate enough interest to pay out $500, that an award will not be given or something? I mean,
Well, to my thinking, the trustees have to make the decision on what the minimum of what that amount is.
okay.
so maybe for the
And so-
next meeting, if we have, I'm sorry.
Well, it's just, and so aren't we better by just saying annually, we'll look at this policy like we do the investment policy and decide if it's appropriate to change the
That's-
25 to 26 or 27 or 20, 30 or whatever it is?
I mean, you do review everything every year. So,
Yeah, we just,
Okay.
you know, we haven't changed this because, you know, although it's now 6 years old, but I'm trying to I want to add some predictability.
Yep.
That's one of the reasons we want to try to have templates and everything. And so if we have this, or it could be more thing, I think it's gonna be a deterrent for people wanting to do it. And so you'd have to come down and say, we're starting a new one for so-and-so. What's the number gonna be for this one?
So if the language was, you know, this number is based on an annual review by the trustees, that would explain that each year the number will be reviewed, and so it could just say must be whatever it is, 25, 26, because you've reviewed it, you've decided. But does that achieve your goal of predictability?
Well, so what I'm almost thinking that we're better off eliminating the language of the $500 annual award. Because that just explains where the 25 came from. So if that sentence was to simply say the initial trust fund principal must be at least $25,000.
sufficient to generate enough income to make an annual award.
Yeah, I mean, well, and then every year we look at that and decide whether the most recent history has
if there's enough to, yeah.
The 500 number is consistent throughout the other trusts, though, is that correct? It's either 500 or 250 in terms
No,
of.
a lot of the trusts that we have right now, there are some trusts that say, we wanna give out an annual award of $1,000, but their initial corpus was more than 25,000, it was, 100,000 or whatever. A lot of them do designate, if there is sufficient funds generated on the interest of the corpus, then we would like to award $1,000 every year, that sort of thing. A lot of the trusts that we have right now do specify how much. I'd say probably about 30% of them, 35% have an amount.
Historically, have you ever given less than 500? Just the 250?
It depends on how the trust is written. Again, 6 years ago, the trustees decided they wanted a more standardized thing because there were so many rules for all these different trusts that it made it kind of difficult to track. I'd have to go through and figure out, okay, this trust, they say that, it's 500 or nothing. This one is, the trustees can deem whether to give more or less, that sort of thing. So I think the trustees are really trying to find some consistency
Right.
with that.
And we did have scholarships that only gave away like 250 or
Correct.
some they couldn't give any years because they were so small.
Yeah.
I'd hate to see us go below $500, especially on a brand new scholarship.
Yeah, well, I agree. The question is whether, annually we set the number that is predicted to give $500 or, and just change this policy if it goes above 25,000.
Yeah.
Because, it doesn't actually say in the policy that the scholarship is going to be it's going to be $500. It just simply says, you've got to contribute to $25,000 so that it can give
To get a named scholarship, right?
$500, yeah. I don't know, I don't want to overthink this, so I'm happy to leave the language as it is. And I would, if we're going to go with your change, I would want to have the greater of, just to be, I think, absolutely clear. But ultimately, I think the trustees have to be the one to determine how much over the $25,000 we're gonna require, because it's the policy.
So something like the greater of 25 or an amount deemed annually or annually deemed sufficient.
Let's bring this back at the next meeting. We didn't have this beforehand, so
Fair.
I don't wanna.
Yep, yep, okay.
Can I also ask that you use a bigger font?
Yes, this is a red line, a legal red line, which is why it's small, I apologize, because I had to hunt around a little bit to find a Word version of the policy. So I converted the one on the website to to Word, and then ran it against the Word version that you gave me, Tom. So this was really just to show that it was the same.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. And include even that phantom second paragraph. That was something I think that happened probably when it was uploaded, because that wasn't in either the PDF or the Word version. So anyway, that I think is a problem we have to fix with Monty, that phantom 2 times the predetermined annual scholarship paragraph. But yes, I apologize for the size of the font.
You know how to get rid of the window?
For the viewing,
Yeah.
yeah, this is just a red line, so.
No, but what I'm saying is you can leave the red line in without this window on the side.
yeah, I'm sure I can figure that out.
Yeah, well, when you do that, you'll get to the normal size again anyway, but, all right, we'll, why don't you give that more thought and at the next meeting? We'll take it up. Any final thoughts on this you want to share before you contemplate it for the next month?
My final thought is the way it is just fine. Potentially add language, subject to annual review by the trustees.
You know what, I would suggest that, I like that idea, but I would suggest that instead of putting the annual review up in the top, it would be at the end of this entire thing, because we would potentially look at any changes in this policy. And,
Yeah.
you know, so, but I'm okay with the change of the web address for donations. All right.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay, is there anything else you want to say, or you want to stay around for the rest of the meeting?
Happy to.
It's up to you, but, okay, that's good.
You don't have to.
Sounds like you're trying to kick her out.
You've gone full on us again. Oh, you're back, okay. All right, so next item on the agenda is the Public Arts Trust. We have a couple items on that. The first of which is,
Donations in the amount of 18.
yeah, there've been, you received copies of this, there've been several donations that were made since our last meeting related to the Nebi sculpture. We should vote to accept those, so I'll entertain a motion to that effect. How much do they total?
18,000.
18,000.
So move.
Second,
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Start with you, Dana.
I vote yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, next item related to that is the report that you prepared with the allocation of the interest among the different sculptural projects. That, it says up the top, it's a one-page Public Art Trust allocation agreement, November 30th.
Right.
Okay, so I had one question on that when I went through it. The total number is the same number that was in the account at the end of October 31st. It's now been allocated. But it doesn't include the November interest.
Correct.
Okay, so when we see these reports, it's not gonna be really as of the 30th, it's gonna be the end of the prior month.
Correct. I mean, the interest isn't in there, but any monies that went in other words, like next month, that 18,000 will be in there.
Yep.
I do include that piece of it. But if I don't get the banking information in time, then the interest might not be in. But I can put a notation if you would like.
I think we should just have a footnote or something, whether the interest for that month has been posted or not, or allocated.
Okay.
How soon after the end of the month do you get the?
Depends on the mail. It does, unfortunately, it really does. Sometimes it's, some of them come in fast and some of them, I get like the day before the meeting. It's kind of hit or miss.
Okay. And second question relating to that, the Odyssey sculpture has monies has been with us for maybe 5 years or something at this point. It has no accumulated
It's
interest?
in the checking account, and the checking account, you know, the whole checking account only earns like $3 or whatever, so it's not, it's, you know, not enough to, it's not enough to allocate. It's really not earning anything. I mean, we have other things in there that are bigger, that are earning the interest, so
Okay.
small.
Waiting to build that up? Is that the Odyssey sculpture?
That money came in when they were buying it and getting ready to purchase it, and it was funds that weren't expended. And the way it was deemed is that it's allocated for that or the maintenance of. So,
Is that Michael Warhurst
Yes.
sculpture?
yes,
Is it in?
yes,
Yeah,
Has it been paid for?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Several years ago. So there was a South End group
Yeah.
that raised the money for this,
Yeah,
and then they wanted to just turn it over to the city.
Yeah.
My question is, why wouldn't this be with TD Wealth Management?
I mean, leaving the checking
happy to do
account's
that.
not doing anybody any good.
Well, yeah, plus there's no demand for this. I mean, the sculpture's new,
Okay.
doesn't really even require maintenance at this point, right?
correct, no.
Is this something you wanna look at?
I'll look at it, and yeah, I need to look at it and I need to look at the logistics of it,
Right.
because it's
So let's
not
put this on the
standalone.
agenda for the January meeting, and could you send around a copy of whatever the agreement is that we have
Yes.
with the donor?
but I'm just curious, doesn't the same thinking have to apply to the rest of these in-place sculptures with the large balances, whether it's the Hanover parking garage or Pierce Island?
Well, they
I
have,
mean, all those are finished and complete.
Well, which one, well, first of all, these are city monies. This is those ones that are in Bangor Savings are the 1% monies,
Right.
and those can't just go into the TD Wealth Management Fund.
They have to be kept tracked separately.
No, I understand that, but my question is, the balances are so large, and they're just in the Bangor savings accounts. I mean, is that the best city utilization of these funds when they're trying to get more city sculptures for Bohenko Park or wherever else in the city?
Well, I think Tom was planning on giving the list to, weren't you planning on giving this list to someone so they can follow up?
So part of the exercise here of getting the interest posted among the different accounts is to be able to have an accurate number for each project. And then I wanted to give that to Chris Dwyer.
Chris Dwyer?
And say, these are funds that are available for, you know, for arts in the park, so to speak. And, you know, my goal was to get that to her in January after we posted the year-end interest
Okay,
and then they can decide whether they want to use it. If they aren't, I mean, so these are currently, like the Nebby one, that money is going to be dispersed as soon as they finish their fundraising. The other ones, it seems to me, we may be at a position of putting those into the money market or a CD or something instead of just in Bangor savings.
Yes.
well, and Judy, some of these haven't been determined yet what the art's gonna be.
Correct.
I'm sorry, Peter, haven't determined what?
What the art is gonna be, like the Pierce Island wastewater treatment plant. You know, they haven't actually allocated that to a specific piece of art.
Not that I'm aware of.
I
Really? I thought there was art there.
And the same for the Hanover parking garage.
Yeah, I think the first, and the same is true of the middle school. I think
We're leftovers.
I think they've used some of the monies.
Yeah.
And so this would be for second pieces and.
Correct.
And the location. So part of the exercise, I think, is once we can have a proper accounting of where the interest goes on a regular basis, that we'll ask the Arts Committee and the city manager, I guess, what the expected time frame is for dispersing these or deciding on a project. And if it's going to be, something more than 6 months, I think we want to get this into
CD.
a more active account. But the NEVI is, that's gonna happen within the next 6 months or
If they raise the money.
yeah, but, they seem to be raising it on a regular basis. But the Odyssey is now, it's,
Yep.
unless we're prohibited by the donor agreement, I think we want to
Yeah.
put that with TD.
I'll have to look and see what came in with it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so, and we'll put a footnote as far as the interest
Yes.
going forward.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or observations about that?
My only concern is that, like on the middle school, it's been sitting there since April of 18. If that gets transferred from the middle school to something else, it would take a council vote.
It does take a council
That's
vote.
part of the arts policy that was adopted.
It does, and it's
Right.
also, I think, if you look at the language from the legal department stuff, when the money came in, it says as deemed by the council. So it will take a council vote to
Okay.
move it, okay?
Okay. So to be revisited at the next meeting. All right. There it is. So the next item is the review of the money market and CD rates.
Right, so I proposed at the last meeting that consideration be given to moving the Portsmouth Indoor Pool Trust monies of $186,000 out of the checking account and either over to TD Investment if after your review of the trust itself, or a CD or money market account. But it really should be taken out of the checking account, put somewhere where it can earn more money. So that I sent you the trust to look at and also the list of current rates of CDs and money market accounts that we have. Just to note, as a sideline, the two CDs that we currently have, which are for the below market rate housing trust, are not due to expire until the end of January. Therefore, I will come in at the next meeting with the rates for those of whether or not we want to roll them in the same place or move them somewhere else. But the rates should be closer to the time of the roll than it's still over a month out, it's kind of far out on those.
Before you get too far,
Yeah.
you're gonna give us large sheets.
Oh, I'm sitting here holding them right in front of
For
me,
those
sorry.
of us with small printers at home,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Here you go.
Well, okay, so,
Jennifer.
I agree with you that we don't wanna make the decision on where to put CDs 6 weeks from now.
Yeah.
But, related to the
Indoor pool,
SIP, the question is whether we put that into TD as part of our managed funds.
Yep.
Because it's all private donor money, so falls under our policy for issuing that. I looked at the terms of the trust and it says, paragraph 1 of the terms and conditions on page 2, that the trustees will hold such funds together with all additions thereto in savings or special notice accounts or in such investments as allowed by the laws of the state of New Hampshire. So I guess I'm not sure why we wouldn't just put this with TD with our other funds under management.
Yeah.
It's certain-
Just one question, Tom. At the end of that paragraph, it says, so long as the funds are subject to separate accounting. I'm not sure I know what that means.
All of them are subject to that, Dana. That's me keeping track of at any time. I can tell anybody what's in each of the trusts.
Oh,
Yeah, so you know, we
you can pool this and you still track it and allocate gains or losses to it.
Correct, which is what I do, and then I file the MS9 and MS10 with the state.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, that's standard language. In fact, I think that's a statutory requirement that you can pool as long as you can allocate from whatever the result is at any given moment, what belongs to each of the individual trusts that have been pooled.
Yep.
So, what's the thinking on putting this money with TD, or would you prefer to?
I'd move to transfer it to TD into our managed portfolio.
Okay. Hear a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, then I will call the question. We'll start with the roll call with Peter.
Yes.
Dana?
I vote yes.
And the chair votes yes.
My only other thing in looking at this is I'm a firm believer that whenever possible, we use a local bank, and we don't have a lot of local banks.
Correct.
I happen to be a member of Rotary, as the president of Piscataqua is, and I asked him about this no muni rates.
Yeah.
What that means in their case, they won't negotiate rate. They post the rate, and that's what it is. All 4 of us, 5 of us, would go in and get the same rate. They wouldn't show favoritism over a municipality. So I want to make sure that,
Yep, they're on there, and I did hear back from Rob. It was after I sent out the initial one, but Rob then did come back and contact me, and, that's why they.
Is that 4% right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I saw when I looked at this, when you sent it around yesterday.
Yep, that's what he sent me. Yep.
And are they looking to get cash or something? I mean, that's a,
Yeah,
I didn't question, again, he responded to me via email, so.
I know.
If there's a local bank that I don't have on this list that you think of, feel free to shoot me an
Well,
email.
the only real local bank we have is Piscataqua.
Yeah.
yeah.
The rest of them are
They have,
Canadian owned.
yeah,
Indian, Massachusetts,
So,
Citizens is out of what, Providence?
yeah.
Um,
M&T is out of Maine.
but they're actually, M&T is out of upstate New York, I think.
Yeah.
New York.
They're
It's a
both-
Warren Buffett special.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
All right, so, it looks like, the Piscataqua money market rate is an outlier. But it certainly, I mean,
well, it might be someplace that we wanna allocate the public arts funds out of Bangor Savings and over to them with that rate, once we figure out, you know,
Yeah,
what you wanna move.
the one downside of that, of course, is that they can change that rate at any time.
Agreed.
Unlike the CDs, which are locked in for whatever it is, 3 months, 6 months.
CDs are only locked into them for the length of the CD.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, so when
But-
I go in for next month, the rates could be totally different. Yeah.
It just means you have to pay attention.
Right, if it drops to 0.5%, then you're
Yeah.
gonna wanna look at the money market account.
And you've gotta wait till we get back in here again or something, but anyway, we're,
Okay.
any surprises on, I know we're not doing anything with it, but,
You know, the farther out you go with the timeline, you know, they're definitely favoring short-term CDs with the higher rates versus 12 months, 18 months. Those definitely all pretty much drop significantly. And a couple of the people that I did speak with, spoke with TD and Citizens Bank called me directly, and they all said the same thing. Yeah, they're kind of favoring or looking at the shorter term CDs right now for the better rates.
and how does it work with Bank of America? Do you get to pick whether it's 92 or 179 days, or how?
Yeah, that's a weird. That was a weird scenario. Yeah, to me it sounds like you can determine, well, we want to do 120 days. We want to do 4 months. That's the rate for those timelines you can kind of determine. She was all excited. Oh, come on in with the trustees and we'll talk about it. I was like, no. I just want the basics right now. We're not. No, we just need to know what your rate is, you know, sort of thing. So that would be something that, it sounds like that's negotiable though, from what she was saying to me.
Okay. I would, by the time we make the decision in January, it would be useful to know, do we get to pick it, or, you know, how, because if they've got the best rate and we could get it for, 6 months.
I'll ask them to send me documentation on it. They must have something in writing that they can send me, and then I can pass that on to everyone so that they have it.
Okay,
Will that work?
yep. All right, any other questions about the current rates of the market? You have reports for us to look at next, Judy? or-
I do. We've got the TD dashboard, which I sent to everyone. And then I've got my reports that I also sent to everyone. Do you like the bigger sheets, or are you okay with the TD monthlies?
Um,
Do you want the,
yeah, the bigger sheet would be helpful. I think you're right.
that? The TD investment one.
Okay.
Yep. So, at the end of November, for all investments, the fair market value was over $31 million. And you can see it's on the consolidated statement of accounts at the top. So, you've got your TD Private Wealth, you've got your Citizens Bank, Bangor Savings, and then the other smaller banks that have different amounts in there. And Tom and I did go over on 12/10, and we closed out that small account at Newburyport Bank for the $24.82, which was undispersed interest for the Daniel Street Trust. That is in the checking account right now, but we'll be moving that over because that was city funds. We'll move it in with the rest of the Daniel Street funds. So, Daniel Street Trust funds.
And
Judy, on the below market rate housing trust, why are there two different amounts?
Because I know what the interest is on one of them. They give me the monthly interest.
Okay.
So I'm able to say TD sends me a monthly statement and Newburyport Bank does not. So Newburyport will give me the full
Alright,
interest
so-
amount at the end of 6 months, so that's how I know.
My question was gonna be,
Yeah.
is the November interest in each of these balances?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Except for Newburyport.
Except for,
Well, yeah.
well, except for that, the CD in the report, yes.
All right.
Okay. And then on the TD pieces, you know, they sent over their dashboard and John wanted me to apologize to you all. Evidently, they're reporting, everybody was out with COVID. They had no one to run the report, so he did the best he could. It doesn't have its normal graphs, so he apologized. You can see that just the TD investments are at 30 million fair market value. And then in looking at sheets that I pulled together for you, you know, your month-to-month performance, you can see we're still climbing. We're still doing well with the investments. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing to a lot of people.
it's doing well.
All right, questions about the TD's reports? All right. And then, that's pretty much the financial. We just need to do, pick dates for, the next 3 or 4 months. Just a couple cleanup items that, really just sort of year-end things. You know, when we started the year, we were potentially looking at doing something with the library trust at the request of the head librarian. She appears no longer interested in pursuing that. So that essentially is a closed issue as far as I'm concerned. And then we had the similar situation with the group that wanted to start the Sister Cities Trust, but apparently they no longer want to pursue that. So we can take that off of your radar going forward. So dates for, let's say, the next 4 months.
While we're talking about dates, for the February meeting, you want me to schedule TD, and that's the meeting that they're supposed to come in for, correct?
Yeah,
That's what we kind of decided at the last.
unless he can get us the report.
I guess it depends on,
In January, we should just plan on the February one.
okay.
All right, so January, the third Wednesday of the month would be the 21st. But if we could do it the 14th, if you prefer that one.
_21 of January?
Yep.
Huh?
Yes.
Does that work for you, Dana?
That's good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then February would be the 18th.
Is that a holiday? It's popping up as a holiday on mine. Is that a
What would be the holiday?
Ramadan? Is that a
Ramadan is like a month-long thing.
Okay, so that's not, it was, let's say first night, so that you're,
Yeah, so
okay,
it's, I actually printed out the list of Muslim holidays, and the ones that were approved by the city council at the last meeting were are gonna fall on March 20th and May 17th.
Okay, so 2/18 is what we're looking
Yeah,
at.
if that works.
That's good.
Peter, are you good with that one?
You good with that one? February 18th?
February 18th, yes.
Okay. All right, and March would be
The 18th.
18th
Yeah.
as well.
But did you just say that date to me, though?
No, March 20th.
Oh,
is-
20th, okay, sorry.
That's the beginning of,
Okay. So 3/18/25.
and
Okay.
then let's just do the April one,
15th.
which would be the 15th.
Okay.
Does that work, Dana?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's January 21st, February 18th, March 18th, April 15th.
Okay,
Okay.
so I have some, oh, go ahead.
Got some checks for us
Yeah, I
to
do.
sign. Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, we don't have anybody from the public here, so we won't have any comments. And
Before we sign off, though, we should probably discuss the payout of the Prescott Park,
yes, that's
because
right.
that's a big one. The scholarships is fine,
so among the things that you received was the latest report on Prescott Park, on their expenditures.
and, you know, it's as you voted last year for the allocated amount to be awarded for the budget for fiscal year 26. This check is for half of that amount. The total amount of funds agreed, total between Prescott Park and the Marine Maintenance Trust. Prescott Park was $215,900. Marine Maintenance Trust was gonna put in $26,000 for a total of $241,990. So half of that amount would be $120,950, which is what I have a check here for.
Right. And this report shows that the city has spent more than that amount.
We're actually pretty much at the halfway mark. If you look at the total amount of, you know, the total amount of the budget is $609,000. They're at $288 as of December yesterday.
Yeah.
So they'll be pretty much halfway through. This is halfway through what we said that we'd allocate over, so.
Yeah, I'm just making it clear that we're dispersing for expenses related to the park
Correct.
already spent, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to approve the dispersal of the $120,900. This is what you do when you give me these very small prints.
I'm sorry.
One,
$120,950.
So move.
All right, okay, so we have a motion to disperse that sum to the city in reimbursement for the Prescott Park expenses. Do I hear a second?
He said,
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll.
I just want to be
Yep.
clear for the record, Judy, on this.
yes,
In total, the trustees are contributing $241,900 to a budget of $609,700 to run the park.
that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to think, Tom, we used to do this with the whole park at $240,000.
It is kind of shocking. It wasn't that long ago either. All right, so I'll call the roll. Let's start with you, Dana.
I vote yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
And now I just have scholarship checks, so
All right,
if you wanna end.
all right, so unless there's any new business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We'll move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? I can't do that. Peter, start with you.
Yeah.
Dana?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes.